For today's session, we'll be talking about footprinting or reconnaissance. Alright. So, what is footprinting? Actually, in any type of security testing methodology, footprinting or reconnaissance is the first step, right? And we call it um, a very important step because it involves observing and collecting information about your target, right? And it's very important because you have a limited time to do your assessment and you need to make sure that everything is planned properly. And you'll be able to do that by doing footprinting or reconnaissance. Okay. So, how do you do footprinting? So, you can collect publicly available information through the use of searches in the different search engines, um, and going directly to the website of the target, get information through reviews and other online sources. So you get technical details like the operating system. um, um, what about the organization, the IP, the domain, and other information related to its network. You can also get that through footprinting. Okay, and you can also check and map it later on. Information such as existing or potential vulnerabilities. Okay, it will be verified in the next steps, but you'll have an idea what type of exploits you're going to use in the next steps. So, why do you need to perform footprinting first? Okay, you want to get a picture about the organization security posture. Are they secured? Okay, are they patching their servers frequently? Do they anonymize company information? Do they show um, data center information, technology information, right? So, in a way, you would see how mature the organization is in terms of cybersecurity, right? Okay, so a database that paints a detailed picture, right? So, because you'll have a list of information about the target, okay? And a network map, okay, to see and validate whether the IPs that you have identified that were provided to you are the real IPs, or have you discovered something new? Have you discovered other information that were not shared during the initial engagement, during the creation of your scope? So with this, you'll be able to validate it. Now, what are the goals of the footprinting process? So you get a lot of information, the network information, operating system information, as what we've said, org information, okay, such as the VIPs, the CXOs, employee information, um, who are the contact persons or contact people in the IT help desk, the receptionist, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that would be um, important when you do your social engineering attacks. No? You have your network blocks, network services, application and web application data, the configuration, system architecture, okay, intrusion detection and prevention systems, or IDS or IPS, employee names, and work experience. Now, the list is very long, but you won't, in some cases, you will be able to get all of this information. In some cases, some of it. But the important thing is you try to get as much information as possible so you can map and validate whether this information um, that you have collected is true or not. Okay, and utilize this information in the next steps. Okay, so um, next is the network information, right? That are the domain names. I think these are publicly known information. Okay, so internal domain name information, if there's a format, if how they how they create names, how they name the servers, and IP addresses or of available systems, external, public facing, and then later on you'll be able to identify whether they are hosted on-prem or in the cloud. Okay. Rogue or unmonitored websites, like if they are updating the website, you can um, updating to a new version, and then the old version is still there, or a test website or a UAT website. That you might be able to get more information or some juicy information, then you can also check it out. Private websites, intranet websites that you know accidentally have been set to public, and TCP and UDP services that are running. What else? You have your access control mechanisms, firewalls and access control lists or ACLs, VPN information, IDS and IPS, as well as configuration data. Are they using VoIP, telephone numbers, authentication mechanisms, and systems? Okay, so again, this is getting deeper during your discovery stage, but um, you're not required to get all of this information right away. Some of this you won't. You'll be able to get during the scanning phase, okay, or during the vulnerability discovery phase. But if there are public information about this, then you might as well collect. So at least during this phase, you'll be able to have some information about your target. Um, OS information. We call this fingerprinting, right? So you get the information about your user and group information, banner grab to get server names, versions, platforms used, routing tables, SNMP or um, some simple network management protocol, um, your system architecture, remote system data, system names, and passwords. At times, you'll just get the clues, like for example, system names. Depending on the organization, they have initials or acronyms that they use for their organization, like you use PH for Philippines or um, PH and then IT, meaning Philippines and then IT team 001, something like that. That's the system name, how they identify machines, and you can build the patterns. For the passwords, usually you check the tools that are used, the technologies used, like it's using a Cisco firewall, and you try to to search the default passwords and then see if you can use it. Okay, so there's a bit of getting information about the target and trying to do some deeper analysis about it. Next is organization data. Okay, are there information found in the website that may be useful for your um, footprinting? Employees that are um, influential, that are that have access to um, critical systems in the organization, and locate them in public websites, in social networking. At times they flaunt about um, their respective positions in the organization, and see what what information they have, what is their routine. So you can check it out. You can follow their social networking accounts, no? And then from there, you can plan your next moves, no? Okay, so other than those, you have your address and phone numbers, comments in HTML source code. Okay, what are the security policies implemented? Web server links relevant to the organization, the background of the organization. I'm sure you'll be able to do that. And then other third party articles like news articles and press releases. So other terminologies include open source and passive information gathering. So open source, so whatever is available, open. Okay, that's passive. That's passive information gathering. So we say it is least aggressive because we rely on publicly available information. Next is active information gathering. So this involves um, so there is an engagement, no, with the target. So we call this social engineering attacks, right? So we try to communicate and try to lure them to give certain information that they're not supposed to, and see how they would respond. So we call it soft targets, because we humans are soft, you know? So we try to bend some of the rules depending on the situation. So that's what we want to target here, right? We also have what we call pseudonymous footprinting, which involves um, um, yeah, using pen names, okay, um, by trying um, to be anonymous when posting um, information to interact with the target. Um, that the target will be able to see and at the same time respond to, but it's not the real identity. And then you have your internet footprinting, wherein you use the internet to get the information. Mm. Now let's go to the threats. What are the threats introduced by footprinting? Obviously, we mentioned about social engineering. So depending on how the employees behave, and how aware they are in the different types of social engineering, so they might um, fall prey to these types of attacks. And the problem with social engineering is that it's not technical, and it will defeat the purpose of the technical controls that we have implemented. So instead of doing a brute force password attacks, if the IT person will just give it through social engineering, then why bother do very tedious and complex attacks, right? So let's go for the easy track, and we don't like that. So, but that's one of the threats introduced by footprinting. The second, obviously, is the network and system attack. So these are the technical attacks. So once you're able to get more information, that, for example, it's using um, Windows XP, the servers using Windows 2000, so it's really outdated. So you can plan for an orchestrated attack, okay, network and system, targeting these types of um, versions of the operating system. And there are a lot if it's old, right? So that, that that's one of the threats. Next is information leakage and privacy loss. Obviously, later on, this is the information that we want to get. And in cybersecurity, information security, it is agreed that the information inside the machine, inside the computer, obviously is more important or more valuable than the physical or tangible asset itself. So, and that's what attackers will be targeting, to steal and um, to sell outside. So you have your information leakage, which eventually will lead to privacy loss, assuming that it's about personal personal information and about um, your users, no? Or customers or stakeholders. And then, of course, when there's privacy lost, when there are network and system attacks that um, might lead to denial of service, system unavailability, there will be revenue loss. So it's bad. Um, so you lose your customers at the same time you get penalized by regulators or some government bodies. So that's one of the biggest threats. And then later on, it will impact the reputation of the organization. That's the other effect of it. And people will not trust the brand or the organization anymore. Okay, so now that we're done with the threats, let's now go to the footprinting process. So again, it's all about research. It's all about observing your target. You use your search engines to get information about the target. And there's what we call Google hacking, wherein we try to get results based on filtered keywords, and operators to get the desired output that we want. Other tools that you can use, you have archive, right? Archive.org, which you can find archive copies of websites from which you can extract information. Okay, so it's also called Wayback Machine. Okay, so we can browse through um, information about certain website 10, 20 years ago. You also have Netcraft. Okay, it's a suite of related tools to obtain web server version, IP address, subnet data, OS information, and subdomain information for any URL. So it will give you um, the technical background of the website. No? And then you have your link extractor. So how does this work? So you type, for example, the website name, and then you can choose what information do you like to extract. Emails, so it will extract all emails in the website. How about phone numbers? How about this and that? So you can filter it, choose the information that you want to harvest, and it will create a report and show it to you. Okay. Another is location and geography. There are a lot of tools that you can use now, right? So, but Google Maps, Google Earth, these are some of the um, top tools that we use for location and geography. Google Earth, Google Map, you have your webcams, you have your search utilities like Spokeo, Java Search Wink, and IntelliUse. And there are other uh, more tools that are new that are providing the um, same service. No? And then we gather information from social networking sites. So if you're using Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, you would see the interaction. Okay, and you would see that more and more people get involved in social networking and provide a lot of information about themselves, which later on you can use when you launch your attack, when you do impersonation, when you do um, um, deep searches to get information about how that person performs in the organization and how you can take advantage of that when you attack, right? There are other services like financial services, information gathering. So you have the finance version of our search engines, no? Like Yahoo Finance, Google Finance. There's also CNBC. This is to get information about your performance, the organization's performance that you're working on, and its competitors, and how you can use that later in your attacks. The next would be the value of job sites. So this is often overlooked, uh, but this is very valuable because it will give you very specific information about organization. Like for example, you go to Job Street and then you look for the target organization. They are hiring. They are hiring server administrator that is knowledgeable on uh, Active Directory, setting up domain controllers, um, knowledgeable about Windows Defender, and so on and so forth. So you know that everything there is using Windows. So through um, the job openings, when you see it, when you review it, it will give you an idea what technology is the organization using, and you can prepare it. If all of the all of the machines are using Windows, then you will limit your attacks to Windows attacks then, and so on. Another is working with email. Another part of footprinting is to track your targets, no? Especially later on if you will be doing um, phishing attacks, then spear phishing if you have identified that specific target that you want to get information from, right? So polite mail and who read me are some of these websites that you can use as your email trackers. And then you have competitive analysis. So again, part of your footprinting would be to identify the competitors of the organization and understand the setup, understand how the organization fares versus the competitors. Because later on, you can use that to um, for your social engineering attacks, to convince management, okay, buy this or click this because it's the intel from the competitor, etc., etc. So for your social engineering attacks, it may be useful. Next, we also have Google hacking. You will hear this. I think I mentioned it in the previous slides, no? But what Google hacking does is using specific keywords like link here, and then you put the website name, info, site. If you want to filter results, like for example, I want to filter all search results to this particular website only, you use the keyword site. If you want to get more information about um, or filter all the information under the same URL, okay, you use um, yeah, you use site, or if it's specific title, all in title. Okay, if you want to get the about, the info about the website, you can use the keyword info. Um, and then similar to the other tools that we talked about. So there's a cheat sheet for Google hacking, the most common keywords and operator search parameters that you are using. So you can download it. We'll share the link, and then hopefully it will be helpful for you when you filter queries in the search engine. Right? This is the next part. All right. So yeah, I think that's the last slide for reconnaissance. Um, in the next video, we'll be simulating how to do footprinting using online resources and yeah, see how we can get valuable and useful information that can be used in the next phases of the VAPT. Right, so there. So thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next module.